Hey, what's up, parents and teachers? This is Seth of SethPerler.com, and today I'm going to make a pretty short one relative to what I usually do. And I just want to talk about this concept about how do you know how far to push a student. And anyhow, I'm an executive function coach out of Boulder, Colorado, and I help struggling students figure out how to navigate this thing called school and education. And what I want to talk about is how do I help a student? How do I help push them? And I'm going to explain this to parents and teachers, really, particularly parents, because it's such a challenging balance for parents. But basically, what I'm going to talk about is philosophically how I approach this, and then hopefully you can use this concept in your own family or in your own classroom to help kids. So basically, one of the ways that I describe my job as being an executive function coach is you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, and my job is to make him drink. So the number one problem that I deal with all of my students is resistance. My students resist doing their homework, self-starting, following through, asking the teacher for help, dealing with their inbox, looking at their online grades, studying, actually reading, um, advocating for themselves, being forthcoming with their parents, allowing their parents to help them. They are resistant. They resist everything. So that is the number one problem that all my students deal with is resistance. And if they do not figure out how to deal with this resistance, if they do not learn some self-dialogue to help themselves move through resistance, then they are limiting, quite literally limiting their opportunities and possibilities and choices in life. So they're quite literally impacting their life and preventing themselves from having the type of future that we want them to be able to have. So they have to learn to have a different relationship with this resistance. So, back to what I was saying, philosophically, what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring horse water and make them drink. I'm trying to get these kids to do things that they don't feel like doing, like their homework, like using the planner, establishing habits for creating a daily plan, establishing habits for organizing their stuff in a way that actually works, maintaining the systems that they develop, so on and so forth. So, I'm trying to help them do something that they need to do for their own long term well being, but in the short term they don't want to do it. They don't feel like it. It's not fun, it's not interesting, it's not a preferred activity, so they'd rather avoid it and do something else and procrastinate, thus digging deeper holes for themselves and closing opportunities. So, how do I get them to drink? How do I do it? Well, one of the main things that I do is baby steps. I talk a lot about baby steps, but micro successes. Parents, teachers, everything that I do, very rarely are there big epiphanies. Very rarely are there big, giant leaps that they take. It happens sometimes, but that's not what I'm working for. That's not what my objective is. My objective is bit by bit by bit, micro success by micro success, millimeter by millimeter, move them forward bit by bit by bit. That's what works. And what happens is that you have a positive cascading effect, just like you have a negative cascading effect if they start missing a few homeworks, if they start getting behind, like it all snowballs. Well, it can snowball in the positive direction as well, but it requires a lot more effort and a lot more patience and a lot more persistence and a lot more value of the tiny things that matter, a lot more noticing of these tiny things. Anyhow, here is the concept that I wanted to set you up first for this concept that I use a lot. So, in my mind, what I'm always trying to do with my students, like this is always in the back of my head, whether we're working with planners, whether we're working with homework, whether we're working with writing a paper, whether we're working with writing an email and advocating for themselves and communicating to a teacher, whether we're working with being forthcoming with their parents about something, I am always calibrating, engaging where the kid is with their comfort zone. And what I want to do is I want to push them past their comfort zone. Because when we don't push them past their comfort zone, oftentimes we are enabling them or we are disempowering them. We are not empowering them to see what they're made of. We're not empowering them to grow. They're staying stuck. So the one thing that I do is I push them past their comfort zone. But there's a threshold. So I want to push them past their comfort zone, but I don't want to push them beyond the threshold. If I push them beyond the threshold, if I push them too far, they're not going to work with me. They're not going to listen to me. They're not going to want help from me. They're not going to be open to hearing my ideas. They're not going to allow me to support them. So if they're going to withdraw or they'll get frustrated or whatever, this is what happens with parents a lot. Parents will push it past the threshold, then they shut down, all the excuses start coming out, and they're not willing to take action. But if you don't push them past their comfort zone, again, we're in an enabling world. We're in a place where we're not pushing them. They're stuck. They're able to stay comfortable. They're able to live by their excuses. And if we push them past their threshold, we lose them. We're not able to help them because they'll shut down and somehow not let us lose them. So this gray area is where I, as a coach, do my best work. Where you, as a teacher, do your best work, and where you, as a parent, do your best work, but where the pendulum often swings from side to side in parenting because the emotions get in there so much more easily, and your old patterns and your family dynamics that you've grown up with, any dysfunction that you've grown up with, and all that, all of our subconscious patterning and that type of stuff, we're triggered much more easily. Our kids push our buttons much more easily. So with parents, it's harder. But essentially, if we are going to support them, and I'm not going to go into details of all these ways with backpacks and homework and all this stuff, but I just want to get this one concept to you. Philosophically, what you want to be thinking, parents, teachers, me, what we want to be thinking is how do we push them past the comfort zone in a positive way with something that they need to be doing for their own future well being, developing skills and habits and routines for their own well being. How do we push them past that comfort zone, but not push them past that threshold? So the gray area between the comfort zone and the threshold is where we are able to help them learn skills and habits and routines and mindsets and systems that they need in order to launch a great life, in order to be able to have a happy and successful future that is full of choices and opportunities and possibilities. So finally, to wrap it up one more time, we want to push them beyond the comfort zone and before the threshold, and in that gray zone is where we can be most effective, in my opinion. Anyhow, I just wanted to share that one concept with you. I hope you are having a great school year. It is March right now, and this is full on dip time. Like the kids, if you haven't seen my video on the dip, the kids are. This is the time when students are really struggling. They've dug a hole for themselves, and now they have to swim upstream for the rest of the semester. So check out the one on the dip if your child is experiencing that and everything is falling apart. This is the time when it's falling apart. And if your child is not in the dip, awesome. If you're not sure if they are, you better check their online grades and get clarity from the teachers to see how they're doing. Anyhow, that's all I have. I hope you are doing amazing, and I will see you next week.